Well, hello. Welcome to the Film Dogs. I'm Mr. B,
And I am Lord Marcus.
and we're here to talk about our first film viewing together of 2024, Ferrari.
Vroom, 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 vroom.
Michael Mann.
Michael Mann, yes.
Is he back? I'm jumping right in, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Let's jump straight in. Look, I got to say, as with going into the theater to see a film, 2024, I was stoked. Energy was high. I'm always very hopeful that the film that is presented on the screen in front of me is going to be my number one of a particular director or of a genre. I'm always hoping somebody's going to push the limits. Give you a good example. Martin Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon. Like I knew, man, this guy's still he's ripping it. He's making it, throwing the heat.
Yeah.
With Michael Mann.
Interesting that you said,
part of the pun.
Interesting that you said throwing the heat
Yeah.
for Scorsese, because shouldn't it be?
Yeah. Look, here's what I'll say about Michael Mann's very good film, Ferrari. It's not my most favorite. It's not going to be in discussion for his number one for me. But it probably ranked pretty high. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would call myself a like if you look at his filmography. I was about to say discography because I'm thinking about music. I'd say I'm a Michael Mann fan. I'm not a hardcore fan, but I have seen most of his films. And this was an anticipated one for me, mainly because I am also an Adam Driver fan.
Yes.
Are you in the Adam Driver fan camp?
I am a huge Adam Driver fan, and I would like to explain how I came to Adam Driver.
Yes, please.
Star Wars.
Really?
I really was not aware of Adam Driver pre-Star Wars. I know he had a wonderful career.
Mm-hmm.
I've went back and saw some episodes of Girls when it's like, oh, who's this Adam Driver guy? He really reminds me of Frank Silva, who played the protagonist on Twin Peaks. And immediately I was like, oh man, if David Lynch wants to sort of recast this role, this guy would be perfect for it. He just reminded me of that. And I liked him immediately from that.
Yep.
And obviously, Star Wars didn't exploit the deepest level of his talent. But at the time, I was super stoked for The Force Awakens, and I was super stoked after The Force Awakens. I thought that he was immediately great. I have been a huge admirer and he's not ever really let me down. I will say that probably my favorite Adam Driver is Terry Gilliam's The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
That's a great film. I feel like we watched that together.
We
I
did.
think we've even watched it twice together, maybe.
I think so.
I've got Mrs. B to watch that one as well. That's a fantastic film, but we're not here to talk about that one.
Nah, I guess I could say. Yeah, but I am an Adam Driver fan.
Watch that film if you have not. And if you are an Adam Driver aficionado fan, or if you are undecided, that's the kind of film that I think wins you over.
Well, Ferrari is an excellent display of his role choice for sure. What'd you think about Adam Driver and Ferrari?
Well, I was perusing not necessarily reviews, but some of the news around it now that it's out, because we are in Brisbane, Australia, which is a bit annoying because we have been talking about favorite films of 2023, and for us this came out New Year's Day, I think.
The first screening, yeah. So they just had some preview screenings earlier in the week.
But for general release here, it was New Year's Day, where we've got people over at the Big Picture. Amanda Dobbins saw it in Italy, 6 months ago.
Yeah, we didn't even have the opportunity at the Brisbane International Film Festival. This wasn't one of the options for us to see. Unfortunately, I hope that changes this year. I hope we get not a more diverse palette, like a more inclusive palette of the kind of films that are definitely going to get some sort of release in Australia eventually.
But this was a film that I was looking forward to for a few reasons. Mainly Driver more than anybody else, because to be honest, I didn't really care who directed it. But you said Michael Mann, and I go, well, I think he's going to make a good movie.
I think that my biggest elation of anticipation was, wow, if it sounds as good as Heat sounds, and it's going to have these Ferrari engines, I was like, you know what? Like Adam Driver's in it, Penelope Cruz is in it. I didn't really know but when it said Patrick Dempsey was in it, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That was a classy act by him.
Yeah,
Though.
casting. Did you watch trailers or read anything about the film before you watched it?
Did not see one single trailer.
Neither did I. And that's one of the things that you have to know with the film dogs is we're not trying to be like amateurs here, but I don't like watching modern trailers, and I don't like reading reviews of a movie that I'm about to see or anticipating, because I want to go into it fresh. I want to come up with my own thoughts, my own opinion, and I want to talk about it from there.
I agree.
That's the point of kind of even this episode, is to talk about Ferrari. So if you are undecided and you haven't seen it, this is a spoiler episode, because we do want to go in deep. This is a fresh watch for us. And it's fresh in our brains.
We want to capture all that post-film energy, contain it, sell it, put it in a bottle for your pleasure.
But if you're somebody who's watched the trailer, or you were aware of the cast or unaware of the cast, it's like the draw is Adam Driver. Penelope Cruz in it as well, very well cast. Shailene Woodley plays his mistress, Lena.
Where's she from? Fault in Our Stars?
She is. She's from quite a few. I'm not sure if they're of your persuasion, but Faults of Our Stars, Divergent, The Fallout, Insurgent.
Oh, that's right, Divergent. That
Big Little Lies. She's more of a Mrs. B actress, in the sense of Mrs. B would have seen more of her films than I have, but I'm very aware of her as an actress, and she's not somebody that it's like I don't have any thoughts, good or bad, really towards her.
I had most recently seen her in The Spectacular Now with Miles Teller. I think she's a bit typecast. She does that type very well. In this case, in this film, I'm sorry, she just had to contend with someone that was on fire and ravenous, hungry to eat that screen alive.
Penelope Cruz.
Good golly, Miss Molly. Daggone.
She was a fireball in this. And I like that they kind of talk about, I mean, we talked about this film. Walking out of the film, I went, this isn't really a race film or all about cars. And especially if we're going to talk about it in comparison of like Ford versus Ferrari, this is definitely a drama.
It's a marriage drama with the backdrop of Ferrari racing, and not even like that's the backdrop of the backdrop. Really?
Yeah, there's a lot more business in it than
with that said, that racing scene was pretty daggone good.
Exactly. But the thing you have to know is if you're trying to go see this movie because you think you're going to see Ferrari cars driving around at super fast speeds the whole movie, it's not that.
Or like a Tom Cruise, Tony Scott, Days of Thunder film.
Correct.
Like, you're not, it's not an action, keep you on the edge of your seat, big adrenaline rush type of film. It's a family drama. It's got some good racing in it.
I mean, the screen opens black and,
that was
black screen with him talking about their relationship.
That was a nice opening.
But it does, if you see that, you have to know that is setting up the film because it is about their relationship. And when I did see that, I kind of wondered where it was going and if that's what it was going to be about. And I kind of assumed it would if that's going to be the opening. And I was almost bummed when I first saw that first scene because I'm wondering, what kind of movie is this going to be? But Penelope Cruz, I'm going to say it now because we already said it earlier before we hit record. She's probably the best supporting actress that we saw for a film release for 2023, even though this is for us in Australia, it was a 24 release. But for 2023, for all the films that we've seen, what she does with her eyes, with her face, her emotion, just not even saying anything, it is classic Penelope Cruz at her best. And they make her haggard and they make her kind of the old angry Italian woman, and she eats that screen alive.
I just don't even know of anyone else that could have delivered that performance. And I know that I've said that prior about like Emma Stone. There is no person that could have delivered Emma Stone's performance.
Mm.
And like that's a high level of praise. Like this movie will fail without that performance. I gotta say, without Penelope Cruz in this movie, like
Yeah.
she definitely elevated. I think she brought everybody's best out of them. Yeah, applaud and bravo to her. Definitely, hands down, the best supporting role for a female for this year for me.
Yeah, and she shares a lot of the screen time, and I'm not upset that she does. And in fact, if it was Shailene Woodley as the mistress and getting just the amount or more screen time, I don't think the film would have been as good. The relationship, the chemistry that you see on screen with what is being said about the relationship of Enzo being in love with Lena, but he's married to Penelope Cruz as Laura Ferrari. I'm just
Now, let me just say this. I think this is a fair kind of thing to address or to talk about or just to converse and share our thoughts about is on-screen physical, emotional, like any kind of chemistry that's between your actors and actresses and your leads and your co-leads and whoever. They have to be able to, sure, if they're great actors, they can deliver that. But when it is like really natural, that's a whole different story. Let me say, like with Adam Driver and Penelope Cruz, like I can just see them in real life. Like they would get along. They're both really great actors. Like they're fantastic. They're all about the craft. And that's not to say that Shailene Woodley is not, but she's kind of just not on the same level as Adam Driver, and particularly in this film, Penelope Cruz, who is like, she's fierce, and she's out there for blood, and she's kind of driving the way that Ferrari said to his drivers, like, you got to go for it. There is no hitting the brakes. It's both of us die, or like desperate to win, like will not be denied. Brutal discipline to win and compete, and that's like Penelope was that, and I thought that was pretty cool. And she was the only one really that brought that. Although I think Adam Driver did as directed.
Yeah, and it's an interesting. If you saw or reading any of the stuff on online about Adam Driver, this one I think one of the clickbaity articles was Adam Driver's asked about playing like two Italians almost in it back to back.
Oh, with House of Gucci.
Yeah. And he just kind of said like, "Fuck off." But to be honest, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't care because he is that good. People are talking about, oh, is the accent, or oh, he's not Italian, all that sort of stuff, and I just go, well, if the guy that they were going to replace him with was an Italian guy and it's half as good a performance, then get the fuck out. Like, what are we here for?
But that's the thing, particularly when it's going to be, okay, like, let's not kid ourselves. The studios are in business to make a profit. Now, if they, to green like this, they're going to have to get some major stars in. And how many people are going to go see a Michael Mann feature that is totally foreign language? Well, I guess Godzilla -1 proves that possible. Like, I guess it's possible, but same with Napoleon. There's going to be a certain amount of foreign films that are translated into English, and you got to do the best with the people that are good for the role. I think that Adam Driver was perfect for the role.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of slipping of the accent here and there. But it is Italian's kind of hard to do, I imagine.
It is. I liked the coldness of him in this film. Because if you do want to compare it to maybe House of Gucci and him playing another famous Italian who's kind of ruthless, but he's more charming in House of Gucci. But this one, you don't know. I don't know if you like him, like as a person. And it's hard to see the relationship with him and his son that he has with another woman, and then his relationship that he has with Penelope Cruz. But also you are watching the film as, well, he's the lead and it's Ferrari and that's the name on the screen. So he's the guy we're rooting for. But the question is he somebody maybe we should be rooting for? And I think he plays the role great because he is kind of this cold, hard businessman.
That's what I mean. I think that's
racing.
That is as directed. I think that we're not supposed. I really don't think we're supposed to be rooting for him.
Yeah.
This is kind of a. It's more of a stick to the facts kind of narrative. It's not really sort of bent for you to like what call any of the connections between the leads romantic in any way. Like it's not a romantic movie. There's relationships, but they're all frayed and full of anxiety and immoral, or but this is the thing in Italy, it's a bit different. Like first, like Penelope Cruz knows that he's sleeping around, but once she finds out it's been this long standing relationship, she kind of loses it.
Yeah.
But in the end, she kind of, like it just feels like maybe in 1957 in Italy, I kind of feel like maybe that's the way that it really was. And I'm like, that's not to condone it. It's just sort of fact of life. And if we're going to punish Ferrari for that, then there's a lot of people that need to have a reckoning.
Well, I mean, time frame, we are talking about late 40s is when kind of the film puts the background, I think was 47. And then it jumps 10 years to 57. And the truth is it was a post-war relationship with the mistress and him establishing Ferrari and stuff, and all that stuff was famous, going to war and coming back. And not that he was in the war, he had his factory bombed twice, but just that was a thing, and it was Europe, and that was the time frame. But I do like the bubbling and the spilling over of Penelope's connection of going, you make sure we had a deal. You are home for breakfast before the maid gets here. That's the deal. But even the reality of there's the reality of him sleeping around and having a mistress. But then there's also the cold, hard reality where she shows up at the house when she figures out the money that he's asking for needs to be paid to so-and-so, and the banker slips up and accidentally says the wrong place. So she goes to visit that place, and having the reality of, yes, he is with someone. I knew that, but she's in a house that we pay for, and it looks like there's a child there, and they lost a child. And from there it just goes. And
the toy that is on the doorstep is the toy of her dead son, given to his new son. Heartbreaking. Like it was just this is one of the things about Penelope. Like she delivered that scene. Like I think in almost any other person in this movie's hands would have just not worked at all. She really sold that scene. It was I was very touched and moved. It was good.
Yeah, and then even I guess like if we're going on to further casting, like we said, Patrick Dempsey makes a appearance as well, which is kind of an interesting one.
McRacy dreamy.
I like the first time he takes the screen, I go, huh. But then like later on, I kind of go, oh, okay.
I gotta say this. My wife Nicole loves Grey's Anatomy. I'm sure she has watched from the first episode until the most current episode 4 or 5 times. Like it's just almost like it's just constant rotation. Mm. I feel like Patrick Dempsey is sort of like part of my life. I'm really happy for him to have this kind of role. I recently saw him in Thanksgiving, and that was a good role. He probably got a good paycheck for that.
Yeah, I don't watch those kinds of films normally, but I guess I didn't know he was in Thanksgiving.
Oh, I maybe it was how I got Nicole into the theater.
Okay, like, it's McDreamy, and it's called Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, she's not a fan of the slasher genre.
Okay,
but this one with Patrick Dempsey, like I thought it was very classy, and he sold the end of it really well. So it ends, he's the winner of the race, but he's not able to enjoy it for a real tragic and brutal reason, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But so he wasn't able to really enjoy this victory. And he's in the twilight of his career, and it's the first sort of like, well, it's the crowning achievement. He had won a lot of different races, and he had never really finished well. So he was the one that ended up winning. They put the wreath over him, and he's sitting there trying to enjoy himself, and he understands the situation that he's in. It's like, even though I should be king of the world right now, I'm just in the shadow. I think that he was able to really communicate that feeling extremely well. The screen time he had, he killed it.
I mean, them being introduced at the lunch table at the restaurant of, here is the world's fastest driver, here is the world's oldest driver.
Yeah, totally.
Here is, yeah. And he goes down the line, but when he goes to Dempsey and you look at the table of all these young guns, and then you've got Dempsey with very white hair.
Super white hair.
You kind of wonder where that's going. And I guess if you know kind of the car history or that race, he famously does win, and it is overshadowed, but you're right. It's kind of throughout. He plays the role well, and I'm not offended that they cast him in it. I mean, the rest of the casting, if we're like, those are probably the four people that you're going to know in the movie. I don't think it matters anybody else that they necessarily put in it and where they put it. I thought it was cast well, especially his young driver that he brings on, Alfonso de Portago.
Yeah, but did you recognize his girlfriend, the photographer?
I didn't. Sarah Gadon?
She was in Black Bear. She was the girlfriend, the girlfriend proper in Black Bear with Aubrey Plaza.
Interesting. Which I can see that now, but they her haircut and how they dolled her up a bit. She looked familiar, but I did not know that was the same girl.
Yeah, I think she's a definite up and comer to look out for. She reminds me of I'm not going to murder this by saying wrong names, but the lead actress in Departed. Is that
Are we talking? I guess I'm wondering who you think the lead is in Departed. Leonardo DiCaprio?
No, the female lead.
Oh, the female lead,
the psychiatrist.
Oh, geez, you're putting me on the spot.
Farmiga.
I'm gonna have to look it up, but we can keep moving.
Yeah, we'll keep moving. But here's the thing about her in that film. She was a big supporting role. We're gonna have to talk about the brutal. We're gonna have to talk about that brutal traffic.
There's some
scene.
other things we've got. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and tackle that.
Yeah.
Now, I would say my general feeling about the film was, as it was going along, was I don't know what the stakes are here. We're not really supposed to be rooting for anyone. It's not a race movie, so it's not like you're waiting for the victory lap and you're not sort of on the who's going to win this race.
Well, I guess it is framed on, it's not about the race, it's about money. We know that Ferrari is kind of going bankrupt. His bookkeeper's going, you're spending more than you're making. That's famous. Everybody knows that. All the Italians love to spend more than they make. But the fact is that he kind of he's trying to put deals together to, well, how do you keep Ferrari in Italy? And is that possible without having to go international? Because we famously know about them going, do we try and court and go on dates with Ford or somebody else? And famously goes to Fiat. But they need money, and they have suggestions to pump up production sell more cars. And Ferrari goes, no, I am a racer. We are a racing company who happen to build cars for people to drive around in as sports cars. And his big fight is against Maserati, where he goes, they are the opposite company to us. They want to just build and sell cars. And they're not a racing company. I'm a racing company. So it's more of this race to him somehow saving this company. And how is he going to do that? And where's the money going to come from? Is it going to come from, if you don't know the history, is it going to come from Ford? Well, if you've watched Ford versus Ferrari, we know no. It does end up coming from Fiat, but we don't know how this film is framed, where it's going to end. And it's built around this big race, but is it about winning the race? So let's unpack this race for me.
Well, I would say that the race is sort of, is it the sort of the peak of the crescendo, because it's been, this sort of medium paced marriage drama with a little bit of racing and stuff in the background, like a little bit of car stuff in the background, a little bit of Ferrari stuff in the background, but it's mostly been Adam Driver and either his mistress or his wife. And most of the scene, like, this is the bulk of the movie. As we get to the race, it's at a medium pace, and then the race starts, and it's gorgeous, and there's the close-ups of the drivers' faces, and there's the great sound, and like some really great cinematography, some great bird's eye view. Like, I really was impressed. And I was thinking this during the movie. I was like, would I recommend someone see this in the cinema? It probably is the same experience on a nice TV at home. But
on a nice TV and a nice sound system. I did kind of have a gripe with the screen that we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you notice that?
I didn't.
You didn't notice it?
No.
Okay. Maybe I won't ruin it for you because it's your local screen.
Wow, they got more than
it looked like a picnic table. There was a grid on the screen the entire time, especially in dark scenes.
Oh,
It drove me crazy.
Hey,
but
this is one of the nice things about older eyes. I can be picking up stuff like that.
Well, next time you go there, if you see it, don't blame me.
It gives a little character. It's a theater character.
But like you said, the racing scenes, they're pretty good. I did like the camera shots. It is different. Like you kind of want to compare the movie to Ford versus Ferrari because it's a similar story.
It is like it's kind of like Flags of Our Fathers versus Letters from Iwo Jima.
Yeah,
you're seeing a same history of time through different angles, and I thought that was pretty good. But once the race came on, I was like, I am glad I'm seeing this particular part. As it works best in theater because you really kind of immerse into the race, and they've got these tight groupings of the faces, and it's like it was done extremely well. The highlight, probably like the technical highlight of the film, and things are happening left and right, and people are getting out of the race, and there's been some accidents, and it's pretty guaranteed that Ferrari's going to win. Now, this brutal scene is foreshadowed. There's a family in a small town on the raceway.
Well, maybe even set it up more with the son, and it's almost like it's putting nods of his own family in it.
Yeah,
before it hits the screen.
Totally. Yeah. So, this race is going through the countryside, and it's going through all of these little small towns with these cars that are traveling, like at the time, which it doesn't seem that fast now, but back then 150 miles an hour was like crazy fast, especially going through small towns on small roads. The scene starts out with, family having breakfast, and rest of the town is gathered on the road because they want to, as soon as they hear the race, everybody empties out of the house and goes out to the road to,
everybody's
go
listening to the
race.
radio or watching the TV for the updates.
But the parents weren't, but they were just like, either they weren't interested. I was like, they're just mature. They're not really worried about seeing a couple of race cars going by. But the young child goes out.
Well, it's even set up slightly earlier when Enzo's talking to his drivers, and he goes, watch for dogs and watch for children.
Yep, totally. And so a child leaves the house and wanders towards the road. And I think that was the foreshadowing. Now, father chases after him, gets to the road, picks him up, starts walking back. I'm like, oh, well, that interesting. But it did not prepare me for what was to come.
And so this is the 1957, I'm not Italian, but I think you'd call it the Mille Miglia race. And we famously wonder what happens to the car, but the car catches something on the road, and it kind of makes a giant gash to almost explode the tire, and they lose control of the car. And
and he's got a real chance to win. So, and the way that they're framing it with the score is like, man, this guy's he's about to challenge. Even though it was only a Ferrari left in the competition, there was 3 of them, and they were building up their racers. They're going to keep going for it.
And this is Portago's hoping to win and set a name for himself. It's his newest driver as well. You can tell the movie is kind of framed around him as well. because he has his, I think, girlfriend. They don't really talk about it, who she is to him.
No, they just sort of indicate that she had left somebody in Hollywood to be with
Yeah.
him after he had been in Hollywood with somebody else, and so on and so forth. I thought that was going to be a way for Enzo to slip in. I was wrong. But the way that they filmed this, so he's fixing a challenge, and they show these little things on the ground that have like little rubber dividers between the lanes, and one of them had a little spur on it, and then you're like, oh, he's going to definitely be hitting that. Got slow motion, sped up, slow motion, sped up. That was some good cinematography there, but it was drastic enough.
The lead up, all of it.
It was drastic enough seeing that car flying through the air, but how it landed, I am not kidding. That is one graphically intense. It was pretty heavy.
Yeah, I guess we don't really want to take away from the weight of the film, because this is a movie that I loved. I did love it for 2023. I'm not sure if all said and done, when we get all these 2023 films, if it's going to crack the top 10. But I am a young father with 2 kids, and how they kind of frame the relationships, the marriages, the dating, the relationships with the sons, even like you're talking about the foreshadowing of even just these people that we only see for maybe, I don't know if you time the scene. It could maybe be 30 seconds or a minute
At
where
most.
it's them eating breakfast.
I don't even think it was that
and you
long.
see the little boy, and the boy would probably be, closer to my son's age, or, slightly older. And you just kind of go, I wonder if that's just going to be a nod to Enzo having lost his son, or what they're going to do there. But it tugs on the heartstrings, and it
could make your heart stop. So if
I yelled out Jesus Christ in the theater when we're watching it, and you kind of heard the whole. It wasn't a filled theater, but there was a gasp. Everybody gasped.
There was a collective gasp for sure. Intense. I was also thinking that this is the type of film. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It might sit like I need time to sit with it. But I was thinking that as a history lesson, I loved it as a history lesson. About a subject that I had not had interest in before. It has generated some interest for me. I had seen Ford versus Ferrari, but I was not really wasn't looking up all these statistics about Ford, or doing Wikipedia on Ford or anything like that. And I think I probably will see a little, I'll probably do some Wikipedia searching on the facts of this movie. But if I got history lesson, if Michael Mann made movies that were history lessons, totally, that would be my thing. I'd go weekly. I'd re-enroll in college. Michael Mann has made me want to re-enroll in a history class. I like. There's films that do that. There's miniseries and there's TV shows when they sort of do historical dramas. I like that a lot better than, because I didn't do well in my history classes in high school. If I'd had this kind of media to consume, I think I would have learned it as well or better as the kids who were able to read and digest that information the right way. Know what I mean? Know what I mean, Vern?
Have you rated this film, or do you want to rate it? What do you?
I'm sitting with a 4 at the moment.
Same.
I thought that particularly Penelope Cruz was excellent. I thought the directing was excellent. And overall, definitely the sound design was great. I thought the mistress side of it, even though I guess I was a little shocked that it ended up being this sort of marriage drama, and it was sort of showing. Yeah. I thought it was some odd decisions about how that was delivered. I didn't really think there was high stakes for anything. I wasn't really buying. I wasn't rooting for anybody. There was no heroes. That could have. This is why it might elevate later after I am able to maybe figure out what the actual point is, if there is one.
Yeah.
But it's not surfacely available, and then therefore I'm going to leave it at 4 for right now, with a room to go in either direction. Really,
this is a below the surface film
for sure.
If if you're going to see this film with with the guys, because you think you're going to see a Ferrari racing film, you're going to be let down.
Yeah, it's not a buddy movie.
And it might be confusing because you're seeing Ferrari on the screen and you're seeing Michael Mann as the director, but you have to understand that this is a relationship drama.
It's kind of like a marriage story. The Ferrari version.
The Ferrari version, which
Kind of.
yeah, but in that I kind of wondered if we replaced if we were recasting like Shailene Woodley
With Greta Gerwig?
I mean, Gerwig. Oh, could she do? She's too cutesy. She couldn't do.
She,
I don't think she could do the
Jewish.
accent.
She could do Jewish really well.
She can, but that yeah, true. Yeah. But I even wondered because I made the joke of could it be ScarJo again playing his alternate because she can also
from House of Gucci. Yeah,
because she can also no because that was
was
Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Yeah.
If it could just be somebody that I felt like he had a more believable relationship with on screen. That was the main part that I struggled with, knowing that, okay, if you accept that this is a relationship drama, well, who am I buying into? And I wasn't buying into their relationship. I was buying into
What about Florence?
heat.
What about Florence Pugh?
Yeah, I think
with dark hair.
I could. Yeah. To be honest, I think you could easily replace Shailene Woodley with a lot of B level actresses, and it would
Like actual
and it would play the same.
Like actual Italians, maybe even.
Correct.
Like
I don't think,
chance.
and I'm trying to do my best not to knock her as an actress or as, that sort of thing. But I just go, I didn't buy it when that is actually meant to be the point of the film. And even when the film wraps, when it tells you, it tells you the history on screen at the end. And
Hey, let me say, my closing thought would be along those lines. That I don't want to discourage Shailene from pursuing higher, ranked films and these great roles and high aspirations, and go for it. But I'm the type of person that normally, when somebody criticizes me, it makes me give even a little bit harder. Like I'm going to be honest with my criticism. I just don't think she's there yet. I think she was miscast.
Yeah, she almost still felt young
for
the role.
I like her a lot. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't at the level of everyone else. And I hope that if we're fortunate enough that she listens to this and takes it on board, it's said with great love. Like I'm not saying it to be malicious or mean at all. It just, from a black and white perspective, just wasn't up. Like it was B, everybody else was A. Well, maybe not everybody else.
Yeah.
But everybody else pretty much was, spot on. A lot of no-name actors, and everybody just played their part really well.
The supporting cast that they built around them, like props to Michael Mann and casting, because
I love her.
Plays great.
Honestly, and the other films that I've seen her in, I've loved. Spectacular Now, loved.
Yeah.
Big Little Lies, loved.
Yeah.
I didn't really see all the Divergent. With that said, I hope that that would be my closing thoughts. I hope that if there's any criticism of the movie that she reads from us or anyone else, that she just uses it to set the world on fire in her next film. But thanks for coming to the film tonight with me. I enjoyed our Film Dogs 2024 opening night.
The Film Dogs.
The Film Dogs. Thank you for joining us. We hope we will continue to remain your one-stop shop for everything film-related, because life's way too short for bad movies.